Hi, I'm Andrea McLean. Welcome to The Agenda. Now, if you have ever felt stuck in your corporate job, felt like I'm doing something that is paying the bills, but it's not necessarily filling my soul, and there has to be something else that is out there for me, you are going to love our conversation today. So thank you so much, Georgie Da Silva, for joining me today. Now, you're a mindset coach, and you call yourself a soul-led mentor. What a fascinating description. Tell me what that means.
Thank you. So really, for me, soul-led means to be in alignment with who we are and what lights up our soul as an individual, outside of what is expected of us. And as women, we play many roles. We wear so many different hats all at once sometimes. And for me, it means that you are the true essence of yourself and what brings you happiness and joy. And that can be in the small moments with your children, with your family, and also bigger than that. It could be your social life, your hobbies. It's an all-encompassing aspect of who you are and what lights up your soul as an individual.
Gosh, 1,000 questions going through my mind right now, because it's what we all want, really, at the end of the day, isn't it? To find a way of in amongst the busyness of our life and in amongst the business of our life, to find those moments that actually even remember, what do I even like? What did I like before I had children? What did I have time for? What was it that, made my soul explode with happiness and think, yeah, this is where I really feel at my best? Because life just tends to take over. I'm really curious as to how you got to that point where you felt you needed to make that shift.
So you, just as you're asking me the question then, you brought me back to a really pivotal moment, and I had that almost word for word experience. I was having a conversation with another parent, and he was actually talking to me about what he enjoys doing. He runs a football club, he does X, Y, Z. And he turned to me and he said, so what do you enjoy? What makes you happy? And I couldn't answer him. I didn't know what I liked anymore, other than my family life, my children, being a wife, caring for my family and my home, and having a job. I didn't feel like I was anything other than that. And in that precise moment, it was almost an aha moment. But at the same time, it felt really awful. It felt like someone had pierced the needle through my heart, because I didn't know who I was anymore. And that, I think that word identity became apparent, in that I completely lost my sense of identity. And the more I started to talk about it and be open about those feelings, I've started to realise actually I wasn't alone. There was so many other women, other mothers that were experiencing the same thing.
I'm so intrigued in terms of what when you finally get to that moment, that it's almost a horror when you realise that I don't have any hobbies, I don't have any outside interests. I just am what I do and what I've been labelled by other people. As soon as you're born, you're a daughter, and then you go to work and you're whatever your job title is, then you get married and you're a wife, and then you're a mother, and none of those things actually have anything to do with who you are as a person.
They don't.
So once you have that kind of dawning realization of yikes, what do you do about it? What did you do?
So I think my first port of call was I'd had conventional methods. I mean, in this same moment, I started to realise actually I was quite depressed. And I'd already been depressed before that, but hadn't realised that was what the problem was, and why I was feeling so lost. So for me, it was starting to do things that just made me happy initially, like going out for walks, spending time without my children, dare I say it, because I realised that my whole world, my whole universe operated around my beautiful girls. And I love them to pieces, but outside of that, I'm still a person.
Yeah.
So once I got over the fact and was able to release the fact that I am deserving to have my own time, to have my own friendship groups that are outside of mum play dates, and also having conversations that were even difficult with my husband about I kind of need some time for me. I need to be able to go to the gym without you know, having to worry about the kids, and I need to go out with my friends and have a life, which is quite difficult in itself to initiate these conversations when you're so used to being that person who does everything.
And also you've made
home.
everyone else's life so easy, and by saying these things, suddenly their life's going to become a little bit more challenging. So there's always going to be
resistance,
a resistance either from within but also from without, because there'll be either friends who think, what is she doing rocking the boat, and now all of a sudden, oh no, this sets off a chain reaction that you know, it might cause disquiet, and I understand this, but what did you do if and when that happened? And I'm sure it did.
It absolutely did, and as difficult as it was at times, I had to push through it and be truthful to what my end goal was, which was ultimately to feel whole again, which snowballed and grew. It initially started with, okay, I'm going to go back and get my career, because I'd been on maternity leave and I had another job in between that, but I was like, I'm going to go back to my career. And then was there for a little while and like, hang on, this is not quite it, it's a little bit deeper than that, and then started to get involved in coaching. I was coached and mentored, and I was like, this is absolutely amazing. Then started to go on the journey of learning myself to coach. Alongside, I have a great love of dancing, so I've qualified as a Zumba instructor, and I've done lots of fun things that have lit me up as a soul, as an individual, and ultimately it's unravelled and unveiled into more of actually the fact that I needed to be more aware and more conscious in the way that I was living, and being more intentional with my thoughts, my feelings and my actions. And this was when the mindset side of it grew in terms of coaching, and that for me that was the first step into actually making the change, because I had to change my mindset. I had to change the way that I viewed my world, my reality, to then start to implement and move forward into really being the best version that I would want to be.
So how do you juggle the two? Because you still have a corporate career, and you clearly have had this epiphany and this beautiful moment of growth within yourself. And you know, anyone who has moved into the coaching space, normally it's because they've had an experience themselves, they see how great coaching is, and then they feel enthused to want to pass it on to other people. How do you juggle the two?
It is a balance, it is a fine art, and there are times when I'm up late and I work weekends, and I see my clients evenings, you know, and weekends too. But I think those are conversations that you have to have in your household, right, and reach out to your support network. And I think that's something that openly I can admit to, is I've probably not been the best person at asking for help.
I think that's a very female situation, whether it's put upon us and then it becomes something that we grow into, or something that we kind of absorb within our own being. So first off, good for you, because there is no law book somewhere that says that women have to do everything. How has that gone in terms of suddenly the balance of sharing of duties gone?
It's gone a lot better. At first it was a little bit tedious, a bit tricky, but as time has gone on, people get used to, they have to get used to you as a person, because people get so, and we're all guilty of this, our brain, we're conditioned and wired to a certain version of ourselves that we present to the world and that people also expect of us.
Yeah.
And it's just something we do unconsciously every day. When we wake up in the morning, we then remember who we are, we remember where we live, we remember our life. And to try to get past that is quite difficult, especially with people that are around you. So that can be quite a hurdle, but over time, repetition, it changes, and people do get used to this version of you, of who you are becoming, if you like.
And what would you say to someone watching who's thinking, oh my gosh, I've just had my own horror moment where I've realised I don't know who I am. I know what all my different hats are that I wear. What would be, I don't know, 3 things that you would say to them to do to just start the ball rolling in terms of thinking about what do I like, what do I enjoy?
That's a really, really interesting thing to ask. And I think first and foremost for me, it was finding things that brought me joy, that I loved, that were outside of my normal routine. So for me it was dancing, reading, things that I enjoyed that nobody else could interject or take away from me. Second of all, meditation's been a massive part of my journey as well. And there's a lot of science now, a lot of neuroscience coming out. It's available information for anybody to support the fact that going inwards is a massive part of growth and personal development. And probably the third thing that I would say is be authentic and be yourself, because there is only one you, and everything about you and your uniqueness is the most beautiful thing really on this earth.
I love that. And if I can selfishly end on my take on that, when I was at your place, because I had a very similar experience, I was told, right, grab a piece of paper and a pen and write down 5 things that bring you joy. Don't think about it too hard, just write down the first thing that comes into your head, right, go. And the first thing I wrote was walking my dog in the sunshine and feeling his joy. I was like, okay. Second was dancing and not caring that I'm really bad at it. I couldn't be a Zumba teacher, I'm very, very bad at dancing. But dancing and just not even caring. It was just the joy of listening to something that served no purpose other than to make me feel good. So my problem is that whenever I want to read a book or listen to a podcast, it always ends up being a learning. And it was actually trying to force myself to not constantly educate. It was to do something that had no purpose whatsoever. So I joined a pottery class. I'm also terrible at pottery. It was great because I wasn't thinking, oh, I could start a business doing pottery. So really, I can't remember what my other 2 things were, but it was literally that free-form thinking of write down something that brings you joy, and it doesn't have to be useful. I think it's so ingrained in us that we feel like we have to do something useful, and actually doing something that has no purpose whatsoever actually serves the biggest purpose.
It's really interesting. Yeah, really interesting you say that, because I think subconsciously we are wired to constantly try to turn things into a business or some kind of income. And I've definitely been probably guilty of that at parts along my own journey, and realising that it's the simple things and gratitude.
All of it. It always comes down to the simple things. Georgie, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.